In August 2006, a man tragically lost his life in a highway car accident. His wife then held a funeral for him. 3 years later, when the wife returned home one night, she was shocked to see her dead husband suddenly appear, frightening their 7-year-old daughter. Welcome to Red Eastern True Crime. If you enjoy this story, please subscribe to my channel. Let's dive into this story. Tianming Cheng, we will call him Cheng, was born in 1962 in Lanzhou City, Gansu Province, China, and came from a poor background. He was the second of 5 siblings. He had 2 younger brothers who look a lot like him. In the 1990s, Cheng took the opportunity to go to Japan for a better life. He got married to a Japanese-Chinese woman, and they had 2 children. After a few years, he obtained Japanese citizenship. However, the marriage ended in divorce. After that, Cheng started his own company selling healthcare products. In 1999, Cheng met Xue Liping on a trip to Mount Fuji in Japan. Xue, originally from Nanjing, Jiangsu Province, China. Her father was a former military officer and later worked as a mid-level government official, while her mother was a doctor. Xue studied beauty and wellness in Japan. Cheng quickly began pursuing Xue, who was 8 years younger, and in the midst of her lonely life in a foreign country, Xue accepted Cheng. They married in 2001, and Xue also became a Japanese citizen. They had a daughter a year later. Cheng's health supplement business in Japan became very successful. Many Chinese consumers were blindly following foreign brands of health supplements, so some Chinese business people prefer to make affordable health products in developed countries and sell them in China. Chen made a lot of money from this. In early 2005, Xue and her daughter returned to China and settled in a villa in Nanjing. With investment from both Cheng and her parents, Xue started a beauty company. In the same year, however, their lives faced a major challenge. Cheng's business ran into serious financial problems, and he couldn't pay back bank loans. A year later, Cheng also returned to China to visit his wife and daughter and to raise money for the company. One day in August 2006, Cheng and his younger brother Guang were driving back to their hometown. Shortly after entering Gansu Province, their vehicle suddenly crashed into the guardrail on the highway, causing severe damage and killing the driver instantly. When the police arrived at the scene to investigate, they concluded that it was an accident, and the deceased was identified as Chen. Strangely, Guang was not in the car, and his family couldn't reach him. It was as if he had vanished into thin air. After Cheng's funeral, Xue suddenly remembered that they had taken out a large life insurance policy while in Japan. Eventually, Xue received a payout of 5 million RMB, about $630,000, from the Japanese insurance company. She then sold Cheng's company in Japan and shared some of the proceeds with his family. Xue dedicated herself to her career and used the remaining funds and the insurance money to invest, making her a well-known local entrepreneur. By this time, Xue and her new boyfriend Tang were also in a stable relationship and planning to get married. Xue had her own successful business, a lovely daughter, a loving boyfriend, and lived in a villa. She was living a life that was admired by many people. One night in June 2009, Xue arrived home with her daughter. As they walked in, Xue noticed a man sitting on the sofa in the darkened room. The sight startled her daughter, who began to cry. Surprisingly, the man stood up and comforted the little girl, telling her that her father had returned. Strangely, Xue didn't show much surprise at Cheng's sudden appearance. It turned out that Xue had known the real story all along. That day, as Cheng and his younger brother Guang were driving back to their hometown in Gansu Province, Cheng received a call from Xue, informing him that their daughter had suddenly fallen ill. Cheng decided to return home to take care of their daughter. After dropping Cheng off at the airport, Guang left and tragically got into a car accident less than an hour later. At the accident scene, police found Cheng's driver's license and a cell phone in the car, and the car was registered in Cheng's name. They identified the deceased as Cheng and informed Xue. Devastated by the news, Xue grieved. A few hours later, however, an unharmed Cheng walked through the front door. Xue was both shocked and relieved. It was then that they realized that it was actually Cheng's younger brother, Guang, who had died in the car accident. Just as Cheng was about to call his family to tell them the truth, Xue remembered that they had bought several life insurance policies in Japan, potentially worth 10 million RMB. Since the police had already concluded that Cheng's death was an accident, they saw an opportunity to get insurance payout that could also solve the financial problems of Cheng's company. After some discussion, they both agreed to the plan. According to the plan, Cheng temporarily went into hiding in another province. Afterwards, Xue received a payout of 5 million RMB from the Japanese insurance company, instead of the expected 10 million, because she only submitted the police accident report and didn't provide the DNA report of the accident victim. While Cheng was in hiding, he was only able to make occasional contact with his wife. He lived under a false identity and changed his location from time to time. Later, they agreed that to avoid suspicion, Xue would be the one to initiate phone calls to Cheng, and Cheng wouldn't reach out first. This period of hiding lasted for 3 years. During this time, Xue's business flourished, and Xue's father became a well-known local businessman. Communication between Xue and Cheng became increasingly rare. Xue's attitude became more distant, and even their daughter was unaware of his existence. Finally, tired of living in hiding, Cheng made the decision to return to Nanjing and be united with his wife and daughter. Faced with her husband's sudden return, Xue felt conflicted because she had already publicly acknowledged her relationship with her new boyfriend and was preparing to get married. The truth is, Xue had met her boyfriend Tang before she returned to China in 2005, and they quickly became romantically involved, which was one of the reasons for her return. Cheng, however, was unaware of any of this. He simply wanted to return his family and end his life of running and hiding. Cheng stayed at home and refused to leave. In desperation, Xue decided to confess the insurance fraud to her father Xue Jinggong. After her father's initial shock, he decided to help his daughter to keep the secret. Xue and her father decided to settle the matter with money. Xue gave Cheng a bank card with 3 million RMB, approximately $440,000. Xue openly told Cheng that she had a boyfriend and urged him to move on with his life and not to come back. Cheng was filled with anger and remorse. He had sacrificed his normal life and family for the insurance money, but it was irreparable. He left in frustration, holding the bank card in his hand. After that, an emotionally unbalanced Cheng indulged in lavish spending and burned through all his money within a year. He approached Xue several times for a large sum of money. In January 2011, Cheng returned home again to ask Xue for money. This time, Xue refused, explaining her business was losing money and that she couldn't provide any more money. In response, Cheng explicitly stated that if the money wasn't available, he just wanted to return home to live. Cheng contacted Xue's boyfriend, Tang, and revealed his true identity and the full story, asking him to leave Xue. Tang couldn't believe that Xue had such a shocking secret and confronted her with questions. Xue, in an emotional appeal, explained and reasoned with Tang to try to save their relationship. Finally, Tang promised that he wouldn't give up on Xue. A month later, on February 28, 2011, two college students were hiking on a trail in Nanjing's General Mountain. While on a small path halfway up the mountain, they noticed a black garbage bag hiding in the bushes. They found it strange why someone would dump garbage in that area. And when they took a closer look, they were horrified to discover that human fingers were protruding from the garbage bag. Police quickly arrived on the scene, and subsequently found more than 10 identical garbage bags within a few hundred meters of each other in the area. A forensic examination confirmed that the victim was a male between the ages of 40 and 50. The cause of death was blunt force trauma to the head, rendering his face unrecognizable. The time of death was estimated to be late on 25th. After investigation, the police determined that the garbage bags came from a Metro supermarket. They then located the Metro supermarket in Jiangning District, Nanjing, near General Mountain. Investigators spent a great amount of time reviewing the store's surveillance footage. At the same time, forensic experts discovered a blood-soaked ticket in a hidden pocket of the victim's underwear. Using special equipment, they were able to recover the ticket's information, which showed that it was a train ticket from Lanzhou to Nanjing on February 25th, purchased by an individual named Tianming Yang. The police soon headed Yang's home in Lanzhou. However, Yang's wife insists that he was alive and had just left for work after breakfast. When they met with Yang, he admitted that he had bought the train ticket and gone to Nanjing to visit his sister-in-law Xue and niece. He explained that he casually threw the ticket away afterward. The police discovered that Yang had two brothers, one of whom had died in a car accident and the other had been missing for 5 years. Suspicion grew around Yang. The police collected his DNA. A forensic analysis of the victim's skull helped to reconstruct his facial features, which was surprisingly similar to Yang's. A DNA comparison revealed that Yang and the victim were related, suggesting that the victim might be Guang, who had been missing for 5 years. However, a twist occurred when the victim's DNA was compared to Guang's son. It turned out that the victim wasn't Guang, but the DNA was very similar. Could it be that the victim was actually Chen, who had supposedly died in a car accident 5 years ago? At that point, the police could hardly believe it. But after comparing the victim's DNA with that of Chen's daughter, the unbelievable truth emerged. The victim was indeed Chen. Only then Yang confessed to the police. He explained that his brother Chen had suddenly reappeared a month ago and told the family the whole story. And the family was both shocked and delighted. Yang was willing to help Chen reunite with his family. So they called Xue and told her that they would both come to Nanjing on the 25th to have a purple talk. On the evening of 26th, Yang accompanied his brother Chen to Xue's villa. Later, an argument broke out between Xue and Chen. Yang thought it was a family matter, so he left. The same night, he received a message from Chen, but he couldn't reach him. His sister-in-law Xue informed him that Chen had left with the money, so Yang left Nanjing the next day. The police shifted their investigative focus to Xue's villa and quickly made a crucial discovery. Unprocessed blood stains were found in both the bathroom and the garage. Blood analysis determined that they belonged to Chen. This location was most likely the original crime scene. As a result, they decided to arrest Xue. By this time, Xue had already left Nanjing and arrived at Shanghai International Airport, planning to flee overseas. However, the arriving police managed to catch her at the airport. During the interrogation, Xue's emotional defenses quickly crumbled. She confessed her involvement in the insurance fraud with Chen and how she had given him a large sum of money to make him leave. However, Chen continued to demand money and threaten her. When Chen and his younger brother Yang called and mentioned an in-person meeting on the 25th, Xue completely lost control. She screamed at Chen and desperately begged him not to disrupt her life. In response, Chen, also upset, threatened to expose all the truth if she didn't allow him to return home. On the evening of 26, at 6 p.m., Xue called Cheng to come home. Unexpectedly, Cheng's brother Yang also arrived. Xue had no choice but to feign an argument and send Yang away. After Yang left, Xue's boyfriend, Tang, arrived at the villa with 3 thugs. They overpowered Cheng, tied him up and blindfolded him. Then they all left. At 8 p.m. that night, a car pulled into Xue's garage. A man got out of the car and took the knives and axe hiding in the garage. Inside the quiet villa, with only himself and the bound Cheng, he took Cheng's life with his own hands. He then used Cheng's phone to send a message to Cheng's brother Yang, falsely claiming that he had made a deal with Xue and was on his way to another province. Throughout the night, this man was busy cutting, cleaning, and packing. Hours passed, and as dawn approached, he loaded the several black bags into his Audi and drove towards General Mountain. He had originally planned to scatter the bags up the mountain, but being 70 years old, his stamina was waning, and he couldn't get more than halfway up the slope. As a result, he left all the bags in the bushes within a radius of 500 meters. In the interrogation room, the police showed the old man that the surveillance footage they had obtained. On February 24, 2011, at around 2 p.m., he was captured on video buying knives, an axe, and the garbage bags at the Metro supermarket. He was none other than Xue's father and Cheng's father-in-law, Xue Jinggong. Traces of Cheng's blood was also found in his car. Xue Jinggong confessed that his daughter had been constantly harassed and threatened by Cheng. They had a strong feeling that Cheng and his brother were up to no good when they arrived at this time. So they decided to put an end to this state of anxiety. Xue Jinggong wanted to help his daughter to get rid of this unpleasant situation. He believed that Cheng was already a non-existent figure in society, and eliminating him wouldn't raise suspicion because no one would know. Even if the police found the body, they wouldn't be able to identify Cheng. Besides, being in his 70s, he was willing to face any consequences for the sake of his daughter's happiness. He believed it was all worth it. His daughter, Xue, and her boyfriend Tang both agreed with this decision. What took Xue Jinggong by surprise was how a train ticket turned out to be a crucial piece of evidence in solving the case. Perhaps it was because Cheng, during his last moments in custody, realized the dire situation he was in and discreetly moved the ticket from his pocket to a hidden compartment in his underwear, which remained undiscovered. Tang, 38 years old, then turned himself in to the authorities. In February 2013, the court delivered its verdict. Xue Jinggong was sentenced to death with reprieve for premeditated murder. Xue Liping received a 15-year sentence for conspiracy to commit premeditated murder. Tang and other 3 thugs involved were also sentenced accordingly. In June 2014, the case was widely publicized due to a low-cost auction of a luxury villa. The villa, originally valued at 12 million RMB, was auctioned by the court starting at 4.35 million RMB. The auction listing made it clear that a murder had taken place at the property. It eventually sold for 7.86 million RMB, about $1.28 million. When it comes to this case, the most discussed aspect revolves around the car accident involving Cheng's brother Guang. People often question whether it was deliberately staged accident by Cheng and Xue to commit insurance fraud, or a real accident. This case is full of deceit, greed, conspiracy, accident, and infidelity. What are your thoughts on this case? Please feel free to share in the comments section. That's the story for today. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like it and subscribe to my channel.